There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. It is Friday. It is a little bit after 4:30 here on Eastern time zone. That's where I am. I am Becky Schnekser. I am a K through 5 science educator here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I started this series. I'm glad you're here. I started this series a few weeks ago when remote learning sort of just started. And actually, I think I've been in remote learning for 10 weeks now, if I have counted correctly. So it was about 9 weeks ago that I decided to start this series because I know, and probably the same thing for everyone out there, I kept getting these emails that are supposed to be super helpful. It's like, ooh, try this, it's free. Ooh, try this. Oh, we have these resources for you. And as helpful as those were meant to be, it was so easy to get overwhelmed and start thinking, how in the world am I going to do this? And feeling confident 1 minute and then turning around the next and feeling like your world is falling apart. So I started this series so that we could all just take a step back, take a deep breath, and just gather educators from around the world in small groups and just share one simple idea or two simple ideas that you can turn around and use in your classroom tomorrow. Well, probably not tomorrow because tomorrow's Saturday, but you could turn around and you could use this on Monday or maybe Tuesday, or maybe take a week and start it the next time that you have class, the next time you have a minute to really think and plan, and use these simple ideas in your classroom so that we can feel together less overwhelmed and more empowered to keep being as amazing as we are. Even though life has thrown us a bit of a curveball, we're going to be resilient. We're going to keep going. So that was the thought behind this series. And today I'm super excited because I have a good friend of mine, Kelly Koller, here with us. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and then tell you a little bit about an idea or two that she has that you could use in your classroom, whether it's here remotely in our current situation or when we return to traditional classrooms, something that you could use then. So Kelly, tell us about yourself and then feel free to just tell us about your awesome idea.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be here. So I'm in Wisconsin right now. So it's about 3:30 Central Time, and I am up in my kids' tree fort, or not really tree fort, but just fort, getting a little outdoors time
All
because
right.
it's a long day
Situation.
online learning.
My speaker is being a little bit crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. But I'm super excited to share one cool idea that I did this morning, and it was totally last minute. And I got this. So I'm an enrichment specialist, and I have small groups. I have a math group right now. I have a creativity group that just finished up. But my math group, we are preparing for an accelerated math class next year. So um, when the at-home learning started, we had to get through most of fifth grade compacted math. So like compacting the entire fifth grade, like remotely now, because we were only like a couple weeks in. So figuring out how to give feedback, how to work through problems has been just like a continual brainstorm of, okay, well, I tried this, what can I do next? What's better? And this morning I test drove with my group a little idea using, and this might be common knowledge to other people, man, but it was not to me. So this is new for me. We use Google Meet. And we had the ability, like I would demonstrate problems to work through with the group, but like I would ask them questions, and I would hear them, but I wasn't able to see students actually doing working through problems like math problems. So a friend of mine mentioned Jamboard, so Google Jamboard. So I tried that out this morning with a Pictionary game, which was so fun. So we totally did it first just for fun. I didn't like, we're not going to do math. We're going to do Pictionary, and we're going to try this out and see how it works. So I dropped a Google Jamboard into the chat. Fourth graders opened it all up, started, just scribbling on it. All right, great, it works. Everybody can draw on it. So we cleared the board, and then we started playing Pictionary. So I just Googled like Pictionary word generator, and I dropped that into the chat. And so they pulled that up. So they had their, word generator, and you can set it to easy, medium, hard, which was really cool with that little web tool. If you Google it, it'll come up. So we played Pictionary for our math group today, and Fridays are kind of like a fun or, question answer type of time anyway. So it wasn't really a planned instructional time. It's more of a team building and for fun, check-in time. So it was a great time to do that. And it was a ton of fun to play Pictionary that way with the group. And it's just, my biggest one of the things I struggle with when we think about like how we're going to move forward, even thinking into the future, is how do we continually do and work in those fun things. We have these have to do's still too, which aren't going to go away, and we can try to make them fun, as fun as we can. I have another idea I'm excited to try next week, and I honestly forgot the name of the website, but it's one where you storyboard out like a graphic, like a comic. It's not storyboard that, it's a different one that I just learned about too. So I'm going to have them storyboard out a math problem. So they're going to do a story problem that way for the group. So trying to come up with fun and engaging things to do over distance learning, but also working in that time for just getting to know the kids, relaxing, goofing off a little bit, playing Pictionary. Another thing I used with a lunch group this week was this mindfulness card game, which I bought a while ago and I never used. Not because I, didn't like it or anything, but I literally forgot about it. And then I pulled it out, and there's some great cards in here for just like warm-ups for kids to do. Like there was one we did where they get something to draw, and you close your eyes and you draw it with your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I drew it with my left hand, and then we all share these crazy pictures of what we drew. But actually the science behind it is that actually really helps your brain develop and grow. It's a challenging brain exercise to do that is also fun, and it's also quick. So I really love that, and there's some other cute ideas in here. And then this one I bought too, that just has some good, there's some heavy stuff in here, but there's also some good conversation starters that are a little lighter too. So like, I know with groups, you always want to start off with a little small chat, just some chat, and what did you do over the weekend kind of gets old. So you want to throw in a little bit, spice it up a little bit. So these type of games are kind of fun for that. Trip Talk is another one that I just had for my family, but these have some cool little conversation cards too, like just to do something a little different when you're starting off. Because I teach small groups, it's easier to do that, obviously, harder with a larger group. But those are a couple little shares that I have that are just fun things I'm dabbling with this week. As we're all on this adventure, it changes weekly for sure. So
yeah, I love that. Some of my favorite things to do are these activities can be completely non-academic, right? It's community building, and we need time for that. We need time for silliness. We need time to just be together. And we're so far apart, but these little games, these little ideas build that community. They foster those relationships that we worked so hard to create when we were in person together, that it just extends that. And then you can always, if you want, and you don't have to, but if you want, you can connect them to your content. Like Pictionary is such an easy, it's a fun game that you can just play for funsies, but then if you want, you can connect it to content. You can use those content vocabulary words if you want. You can add all kinds of different ideas in there. Or even, I was just thinking as you were talking about math problems, right? So you could use Pictionary to illustrate a math problem or a math concept or even an algebraic expression, and you're building it in front of them and they have to guess what it is. That was one of those, sometimes I think math remotely is one of those subjects where people start to flounder and they start to think, oh my gosh, how could I possibly teach that remotely? How can I do that on the computer? But these are really simple ideas that can build community, and you can attach content to them if you want to, but there's nothing wrong too with taking a step back and just saying, you know what, today we're talking. Tell me what's going on. Or here's a silly picture. Can you make up a story for it? Or can you make a sentence in the story and you make the next one? And can we build a silly nonsense story together and just have fun with it. So I love that, Kelly. How are the students responding to it positively? Like, what is their reaction when you get to play these games with them?
I really positive. They, I think they are looking for ways to still get to know their classmates too. And if we just stick to the content, you miss out. There's so much that happens, outside of those type of learning experiences. So they're excited to just share, to make something and share it with their classmates, even if it's a little picture, um, and just learn from each other. Still have that sharing time where they can, still see each other's work and build off of each other.
Yeah, I love that. I was, as you were talking about and showing some of those games, I was pulling them up on the side of my screen, and we'll throw those in the video description too. So if anyone is interested in using those things, it's a super easy thing for for anyone to use, and we want to make it accessible. So you'll see that in the video description as well. But that is super fun. I know in my class, sometimes just in the middle of class, we take a break, and either I'll pull out a game like you're doing, or today, my gosh, with my fifth graders, one of my students sent me a chat and said, "Hey, there's a turtle laying eggs in my yard right now." And I was like, "Well, I don't care what I had planned for today. Go show it to us." And I said, I don't want to say the student's name, but I was like, "Hey, if you can," I'm typing to her in the chat, "if you can, get outside and get close to it safely, but get close and let's just watch that." Like that's super awesome. And those are moments that even in the regular classroom, we wouldn't have necessarily even had that. So looking for those silver linings, so to speak, as well is super fun, and just it breaks the norm. And then now we know that the student lives in a place that has turtles. So now the other students are like, "Oh my gosh, I wonder if I have turtles. I'm looking out my window, after class, after I click off of Zoom, I'm going to go see if I have a turtle laying eggs in my yard." So it's also kind of a spark of what's happening outside of my room. Is Mrs. Schnekser going to ask me next class to show, if I see a squirrel outside, is she going to choose me to turn my screen and look at the squirrel running up the tree? And yes, the answer is yes, I will. so so that could be disruptive, or we can embrace it and say, "You know what, this is a part of life. This is, how many times do you see something cool outside and you have to stop what you're doing and look at it? Let's tag on to that as our, let's embrace our surroundings, as we have such a unique situation where we could possibly have 100 different things going on at everyone's house. We can tap into that. We can make it content oriented if we want, or just like the games, just take a break, embrace the moment, and get to know each other through that I call them teachable moments. I'm sure a lot of us do, but that doesn't have to be a content teachable moment. It could just be oh my gosh, a moment of excitement that we use to bond together. So I love that. And it was so funny to have that happen today. And I was like, "Yep, I don't care what I had planned. We're watching that turtle lay eggs because it's awesome. And we wouldn't have seen that normally."
And
have you had any things like that happen while you were on with students, just random, and you're like, "Here we go. Let's embrace it."
not with my students, but I have, with my own children. I have There's been a couple of things that I've kind of like, yesterday my son on a Google Meet was, he was making a survival shelter. So it wasn't like totally pausing from that. He was like taking his iPad outside and then continuing with his work, but still connecting with his class. And then today, I was on an interview squad all afternoon inside, and my kids walked through the house with a fish that they got, two fish. They found a fish tank, caught the fish, put it in there, and they're carting it to their rooms. So there's so much learning going on that, this time really challenges us to figure out how to embrace and it and encourage students to celebrate what they're doing, that is, not scripted either, that didn't come to them through their regular curriculum, but that they're inventing on their own. And I think, as educators, and I know myself, I haven't figured out how to totally embrace that yet, and incorporate that in, but I hope that actually this causes changes just even more broadly in education, where we start to look at that differently and think about what unique interests, talents, and resources that we can bring to the forefront of students' daily lives that we really wasn't on our radar before, but now it is, hopefully, as a whole broad community in education too.
Yeah, that's one of my not so secretly wishes from this whole experience is that we take those natural learning opportunities and we see how we can use that in the classroom. I feel like I'm not perfect at it, but I try really hard to use that natural learning and natural exposure to an experience and then attack it with content and hopefully not in a threatening way, but I'm hoping that broader as an educational world, we can see some of these things that are popping up in our homes or in our students' homes, and we can use that or think about those not as distractions but as inspiration for learning. Tag on to those unexpected moments or those unexpected talents or things that you're learning about students or their homes or their families or just where they choose to sit. Like behind me, this is a huge window, and I purposefully choose this space for my teaching and my learning because I love it. It inspires me. If I open this curtain, if I want to, it's a big, huge window I can see out into nature. Or if I need a little bit of focus, I can close that as well. But there's so much to learn there. And I just hope that we embrace that and we just keep it going. And I'm hyped up about that. And I have tons of ideas that I'm just waiting to unleash and hopefully get some thought partners out there in the universe, because I think this is opening up a lot of possibility, a lot of opportunity, a lot of opportunity again to think differently about what we do, why we do it, and how we could do it differently. And it might not be better. We might find out that it was a terrible choice to try whatever, but we can try it and we can see what we can take away from that. So that's super awesome. Well, do you have any final thoughts that you want to put out there, Kelly? Anything that you want to leave the world of education or our viewers out there with? Any thoughts, or as we're getting hopefully more comfortable with remote learning, just things to think about as we craft these experiences for our students?
I guess the only thing that I continually think about is, now that, centering on a purpose, I think is super important, and having that purpose, but then also just embracing being adaptable is kind of something I come back to daily with celebrating with students. And hopefully with the whole education community about how adaptable we are right now, and really celebrating that and continuing to be adaptable. And what new thing are we going to discover and use next week? And I love that. I mean, I love that part of the journey. There's also tougher parts of that journey that we know we're all on. It's hard, very hard to be away from students right now, and it's not ideal to do distance learning, to do teaching and learning from afar. It's better to be together, but how can we improve what we've got? And I think focusing on adaptability is where my mind is at, and what I hope to continue with all of you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And one thing that keeps resonating with me, and I probably have said it in every single video that I've done in this series, is that I think one thing that I've learned for sure is that no technology, no platform, no artificial intelligence can replace us as educators. Good educators with those relationships that you've forged, with the creativity, with the adaptability that we have. There's no technology that can take this. It just can't. There's nothing out there can replace what we do. And I think that's comforting at a certain level, but it's also scary. We have such responsibility, but we are empowered to make a difference. So I think that's super important for us to remember no matter what we're doing. We are important. We are incredibly valuable to the world and to our students. We do make a difference, whether we see it or not. I think this has proved the huge difference that educators have, the impact that we have on learning, but just on humanity, on the forming and the ease of life. I think so. It's awesome to think that way, but it's also scary. I'm like, man, that's a lot of responsibility on our shoulders, but we can do it. We've shown that we can do it. We just need to keep being awesome, keep adapting and being amazing. So thank you, Kelly. I'm going to stop the live feed, but thank you for being here. You've been amazing. And anyone out there that's tuning in, feel free. If you have questions or anything to add to what we've said, put them in the comments. We will read those and we would love to connect with you. So our Twitter handles are right under our pictures right now. We'll also have those in the video description. But thank you for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Always fun.